Well, that's gonna be true.
I think we're ready. Yeah. Call the meeting to order. We call roll.
Ms. Diana Arnold,
Here.
Mr. Kevin Beatty,
Here.
Honorable Scott Bates,
Here.
Honorable John Black, Honorable Bernard Bowling, here, Honorable Byron Chapman, Honorable Jack Kaufman, and I see the Honorable John Park for the Honorable Troy Eppington today. Mr. Christian Street for the Honorable Jeff Gahan.
Here.
Honorable Nicole George for the Honorable Craig Greenberg. See you here, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Keith Griffey. Here. Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges. Here. Honorable Maria Johnson. Honorable Dan Ison. Here. Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable John Ogburn. Here. Honorable Carol Pike.
Here.
Honorable John Schellenberger. Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
Honorable Scott Travis.
Here.
And the Honorable Kevin Nuss for the Honorable David Vogel.
Here.
We do have a quorum, and thank you all for making it out today in this nasty weather.
Sounds like it's been raining pretty good. Like to welcome everybody to the February Board of Directors meeting. And we can get right on into the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them? If so, entertain a motion to accept or alter. Have a motion second to for the meetings, the past meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is January financials. Freedom.
Yeah, thank you. It's on page 35. Starting with our expenses for CD, 547,385. 1,672,000 for transportation.
Rita, could you speak up just a little bit?
Oh, thank you, sorry. Let's start over. CD, 547,385. The transportation is 1,672,435. And our social services total is the 3,262,466. And just an overall total, including our operating and program related, 16,866,434. And I'm gonna move on to our agency-wide revenues and expenditures, and our total revenue for year-to-date is the 16,686,697. And our total expenditures for that time is 16,866,430. That's on page, ending on page 41. And then as we go on to page 42, we have our balance sheet totals, our cash, with including our CDO payroll account is our 2,437,185, and our total receivables is 3,605,25. And that being said, and our financials.
Does anyone have any questions of Rita? If so, I'll entertain a motion to accept her report. Have a motion, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, the agency audit. Rita's up again.
So the auditor of public accounts did approve our audit. The 2023 audit report was finalized effective January of 2024. And we have not received our hard copies from our auditors yet. As of today, nothing changed from the draft version. And we do have an electronic version that was sent to you all. But if you would like a hard copy, just let me know and we can mail you one, or you can pick it up, I guess, at the next meeting. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? If none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the report on the audit. Have a motion, a second, all in favor? Motion carries. Next item, number 7, Transportation Policy Committee. Andy?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I think everybody knows now. TPC met immediately prior to this meeting. We met at 12:30 this afternoon. Some highlights of that meeting included Amendment 5 of our long-range transportation plan connecting Kentucky and 2050, title of it, and our tip. Numerous projects in there. Some of note included the Little Metro project, Second and Third Street, the grant money that Little Metro got recently for the Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation grant, including, and also included numerous NDOT projects. So, dozens of NDOT projects even. We also had, it's the time of the year where we update our baselines and our targets. I'll use targets loosely, our observations of the recent crash data. There was a good conversation about the limited nature of how we can influence those targets, whether we should even call them targets. KIPDA as the NPO is required to submit regional safety targets every February or support the state's targets. We've always been kind of out on an island in terms of NPOs in Kentucky and Indiana. We create regional targets in our region. We will this year with comments. TPC asked that we provide some comments noting how limited and how much of a struggle it is to set the target setting process given the constraints that we have to go by. We also, this influences perhaps everybody in the room on some level, the Every Commute Counts rideshare program. That's our regional van pool program administered by KIPDA in association with TARP. We have, for the last few years, underspent a little bit in that program. And that money, the federal funds that go to that program come from the funds that are directly under the TPC's control, the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program for both states. And so what was proposed by staff and approved by the TPC was a reduction in the amount of money they get from Kentucky. The program gets from Kentucky with no cause for alarm. The reduction gets us to the spot we need to be with the fares down a little bit from several years ago, the ridership down from a little bit a few years ago. It puts us in a good spot, and it has the added benefit of putting about $500,000 over the next 2 years back into the pot for others to deploy for capital projects. I submitted the draft work program that describes NPO's activities over the upcoming fiscal year. I'm required to submit that to the states by the end of February. And a couple other notes and announcements. Our Federal Railroad Corridor ID, that's the passenger rail grant that I've talked to you all about a few times. There has been good movement on that in the past month. The paperwork has been submitted to the Federal Railroad Administration, so the paperwork's in their hands for their approval to get that grant agreement in place. We should have an RFP out probably by the time we talk next month, hopefully in early March. And again, that's for the, as FRA calls it, the step one. Step one of 3 steps. Step one is your scoping of your planning efforts. That's the step 2. Step 2 will take us a year and a half. Step 1 might take us just 3 to 6 months. So we got to get step 1 underway before we get to step 2. Step 2 is the fun part, perhaps. Step 3 and beyond are the real fun parts when they come to fruition. Safe Streets and Roads for All. KIPDA staff met with our consulting team just last week, and so there's movement there. We'll be reaching out to each and every county and jurisdiction that's part of that, which is virtually everyone, very soon in terms of when the feedback and when the support we're going to need from you guys. I think what we should plan for sometime in the spring or so, we'll have kind of a 2-day event here at KIPDA. Hopefully everybody can be here in person, one at a time, where we and the consultants and you guys representing a county or city can come and we'll get real in depth about your place in particular. Again, this is the one where there's going to be 16 plans, 16 small plans that filter up to set a regional plan. I think I'll stop there, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions of Andy? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report.
So moved.
We have a motion, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Next item, net zero advisory. Brian Lloyd. Spencer Williams.
Yep, just give a quick overview. Spencer Williams, that's me, sorry. And Brian and Felicia have been participating in the Louisville Metro's Net Zero Advisory Group. In late 23, Louisville Metro won $1 million EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant to create a climate action plan for the entire Louisville metropolitan statistical area, so Jefferson County and 10 other counties in Kentucky and Indiana. They are required to submit a priority climate action plan, a PCAP, by March 1st. And we are eligible to apply for implementation grants in the range of 2 million to 500 million to implement priorities identified in the PCAP. And so the implementation grant deadline is April 1st, 2024. So essentially what the Net Zero Advisory Group has been tasked with doing, there are probably 125 people from all over the region that have been invited to participate and basically help give input and just provide advisory type roles for the implementation grant. Transportation focused on different ways that the region could try to lower carbon emissions and other greenhouse gases by 2030. So this is kind of part of a short range plan. Things that we can do by 2030 that can have the most significant effect. And then there will also be eventually a comprehensive climate action plan, which will be much more long-term, like maybe out to 2040 or 2050. In transportation specifically, we looked at a lot of things, and I think the focus group that I was a part of was probably like 25 people maybe. We looked at things like funding for Justice 40 areas regarding TARG or Everything That Counts, e-bike rebate programs, trying to speed up the process of building bike and pedestrian networks. There were a lot of different ideas, and we met 4 different times. There were 3 virtual meetings, the last one being yesterday, and then there was a retreat a couple weeks ago at the Louisville downtown library. We pretty much just went through these list of ideas they've had from the previous maybe 3 climate action plans that we've had in the region before, and just try to rank like, hey, what do we think is like the most, will have the most impact, what will have the least. We also, yesterday I brought up kind of how this relates to the urban versus the rural counties. They said they are either in the process or have already reached out to the local county judge executives in Kentucky, and they're reaching out to people in Indiana. So if you haven't heard from them, you should hear really soon. They have to submit this by next week. I'm thinking by the end of this week, so maybe today or tomorrow you should hear from them. If not, me, myself, or Ryan, Felicia can help with that. But I think that the perspective we try to bring up for especially the more rural counties in the region was, how can some of these different implementation projects help in some of our less urbanized areas as well as, of course, helping in our urbanized areas. So I think that's all I had.
Yeah, and then, I'll just jump in right here, kind of following what Spencer was saying, about sort of getting some of the other counties in our MSA involved, some of the rural counties. I think all the judge executives should have received a questionnaire from Felicia, which was designed by the Louisville Metro's team, just to kind of get some input from everybody. That questionnaire, it's kind of a little rubric, some details to fill out on potential projects that would fall under eligibility for this grant funding. Some of the criteria for those projects, it would be $1 million or larger in capital expenditure. Any pipeline projects must be shovel ready or expected to be shovel ready in the next year. Your project has the potential for energy upgrades, in the realm of solar, geothermal, or other tech that could be funded by this EPA money. And then there's also going to be a bonus, bonus points in the rankings for projects that are sort of targeted to disadvantaged communities or low-income communities or annual work. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, as Spencer said, feel free to reach out to myself or they're on a little bit of a tight deadline with submitting it for this application. So if anybody would like to kind of get their input in and they flesh out the details for potential projects, and that's something that we can help you all with.
We can also send out, they have a survey that think they're hoping to have finished by next week, I want to say like March first.
Yeah.
That anybody to the net zero advisory group meetings, they want as much feedback as possible, so we can make sure we get that sent out, just in case anybody missed it, because they were trying to send out to as many people in the region as they could. But we'll make sure that gets sent out once again, so anybody in the room and online can give their feedback, and you can give it to your all people, and they give feedback too. So.
I know that many of the judges have received that email for the stakeholder involvement with the advisory committee, so I just wanted to give an update on the activities that are going on with that advisory group, and then also just say that we are representing the interests of our more rural counties, so if you all do have any feedback, please let us know.
Me as a judge in Henry County, I think that they probably just used us because we got some lower income population, and they thought maybe that, I'm not sure that they're gonna benefit us that much, you know.
Only the MSAs can apply for this grant, so that's why the rural counties in southern Indiana is included, because you are the MSA for the local region.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mike has been attending every single one.
Yes, I know he had, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we have, so. if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Also,
You don't need any action on your report, okay. Thank you. We'll move on to number 9, the CED division contracts, Felicia.
All right, this is agenda number 9. It's on page 48 in your packet. So I'm requesting approval for 4 contracts that we are entering into. These are for the cleaner water grant. KIPDA will be administering these grant funding. The first one is Oldham County Water District, US 42 West Improvement Project, Phase 1. This is cleaner water funding round 1. We will administer the project for $15,615. The second one is also Oldham County Water District. This is US 42 West Improvement Project. They received cleaner water grant funding round 2. We will administer this project for $9,900. The third one is City of Milton. It's the Milton Wastewater Collection System Improvements. This received cleaner water funding round 2. We will administer the project for $4,375. And the fourth one is with Louisville Water Company. This is for the Oak Street 48-inch rehab. Phase 2, this is reallocation of cleaner water program round 2 that was not used on a prior project, where they reallocated to this project. And we will administer this project for $5,353.46. So action is requested for KIPDA to enter into these contracts for administration.
Anyone have any questions? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Both motion carries. Thank you, Felicia. Number 10, available funding opportunities. Justin?
So this is item number 10, page 50 in your report packet. I won't go through all these in detail, but I just wanted to make sure you have them, and then just remind you that we're happy to administer these or public applications however possible. That's what we're here to do. We view ourselves more as an extension of you all as opposed to an external consultant. So if you have any questions that come up, we will get that. That's just let us know. We'll be happy to help. That's all I have. No actions or questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. Next item, Kentucky legislative update. Ethan?
I'll do Kentucky and Indiana. So for Kentucky, today's the 36th day of the session. The last day for newly introduced bill is gonna be next week. And then the last day of session has to be before April 15th. So a couple of high priority bills to keep an eye on. One is House Bill 596. That's gonna be the annexation bill that we were expecting this year, and House Bill 563. That's a bill creating a Kentucky Waters program through the Kentucky Rural Water Association. And we're monitoring that to see how it's gonna impact the Regional Water Management Council as well as local control of the decision making. The following bills have passed their chamber of origin. House Bill 299. That's a bill that requires the Secretary of State to create a grant database and maintain that.
It also requires the ads to put a link of the to the database on the website. House Bill 7, that establishes a regulatory framework for autonomous vehicles. It also prohibits public agencies from regulating them in any way that's restrictive, that's not allowed by state law. House Bill 293, that's a bill that regulates kratom. House Bill 18, that stops local governments from putting requirements on landlords to accept federal housing assistance as income for rent. Now the budget bills are still sitting in the Senate Appropriations and Revenue Committee. The current version has level funding for JFA and also includes $10 million for senior meals. The road plans have been filed. They were filed this week, I believe. So we need to keep an eye out for that and see if they move or when they move. Let's see, House Bill 581. That is a bill that prevents local governments from stopping gas stations from locating in areas that other similar businesses can locate. And it also prevents local ordinances, local governments from treating gas stations any differently than EV charging stations. That's kind of an interesting one that I would look at. So that's Kentucky. I'll move on to Indiana. So Indiana convened on January 8th, the first day of session. They must conclude business by March 14th. A couple of bills that have passed both chambers are House Bill 1383 that relates to wetlands, Senate Bill 135 that's related to redistricting. House Bill 1385 that makes changes to Class 2 and Class 3 wetlands and clarifies compensatory mitigation that must be offered to offset certain wetland activity. Senate Bill 35 establishes certain redistricting deadlines. Some of the following bills have not been fully passed, but they are still active. Senate Bill 190, that makes changes to the permissible use for the state disaster relief fund and changes eligibility requirements. Senate Bill 5, that deals with lead water line replacements. The purpose of that is to expedite the replacement of lead service lines, and it allows landlords to enter into a program to have their lead pipes replaced. There are multiple bills about taxation, House Bill 1120, House Bill 1121, that deal with local income taxes and property taxes. Senate Bill 61 allows for the creation of coordinated improvement districts. Senate Bill 156, that establishes the procedure for the dissolution or name change of a town by the citizenry. Senate Bill 157, that is a bill that states that if a property becomes landlocked, the county assessor must assess the value of that property at $0. Senate Bill 183, that is a bill that allows county councils to exempt mobile homes from taxation. House Bill 1302, that is a bill that would require county executives to submit their EMS data to the Department for Homeland Security. DHS would then analyze the data and create a report to explore ways that to improve EMS services. Another bill is Senate Bill 52. That is a bill that prohibits public transportation projects from including one or more dedicated lanes until July 1st, 2025. That is a statewide policy. Originally, it was only going to be for Indianapolis, but that did turn into a statewide policy. That bill has not passed yet. It also, until July 1st, 2025, Consolidated City would not be able to install any additional signs prohibiting a turn at a steady red signal. So that was Indiana. That's what I got. Any questions?
There's a full-ride bill out there running. Has it got traction
I
yet?
think that's on our tracker. I'm not sure if it's moved yet or not. I'll look that up and
That's the real problem.
Yeah.
I've got 5 water districts
yeah.
and I could have a real problem.
I think you got it. I think it passed out of committee, but I don't think it's had a board vote yet.
I know I'm trying to kill it.
I'll look through our track, I'll confirm that, and I'll let you know.
Kevin, do you have anything to add on the Indiana side?
There's a lot of, well, it's a very short session this year, actually about 7 days less than what normally is there. A lot of bills, did not make it through the halfway mark, into the other chambers, so, nothing of real significance. This is a non-budget year, so it's a very short year.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the legislatures? Yeah, hearing none. Thank you, Ethan. Next item, social service business. Tricia.
Hi, good afternoon. We are very excited that we have wrapped up our first round of procurement for FY 24, which was for home care, in-home services, and emergency response systems, and the incontinence supplies. So, we're going to ask for approval to award those contracts. First one being for our home care in-home services, it also includes some Title III emergency in-home services. There were actually 5 applicants that we want to offer contracts to. We'll take the first 4 together. The last one is Tri-County Community Action Agency, so we ask that any board members that are board members for Tri-County abstain from that vote. The first contract would be for independent assistance of the Bluegrass. I don't know, do I need to read all of these? So normally we would give you just like a lump sum total, but these we actually just approved by their individual rates. They propose $19.80 per unit for homemaker, personal care and respite services, $39.60 for assisted transportation, and $19.80 for chore. In-home services are an hour, so they're basically twice homemaker. Their proposal was $39.60 for homemaker, personal care and respite, $39.60 for transportation, and $39.60 for chore. And they do have increases built in for years 2 and year 3 of the contract. The second one is Lifeline Home Care. Their proposed rate for homemaker services, personal care and respite is $20.25. Assisted transportation is $41.71, and chore services is $21.56. For 3B, emergency and home services, homemaker, personal care and respite is $41.40, and chore is $41.40. They did not provide transportation for emergency services. Southern Home Care Services, doing business as Always Caring, proposed $15.26 for homemaker, personal care and respite, $31.50 for assisted transportation, and $23.85 for chore services. Their 3B in-home emergency is $30.53 for homemaker, personal care and respite, $31.50 for transportation, and $47.70 for chore. The last one for this, it would be Louisville at Home, doing business as Visiting Angels. They only proposed home care services for homemaker, personal care and respite at $16.20. And then again, all of them have some increase for years 2 and year 3. So, any questions in reference to those?
Can these be taken all as one for the vote, or do we have to break them out?
Well, the next one for Tri-County would have to be broken out. I can go ahead and get emergency response systems and funding possibly too.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, the next that we would be doing is for emergency response systems in the home. We have 2 providers we would like to do contracts with, so Valued Relationships, Inc. And Response Alert. Valued Relationships, Inc. is $17 to $27, depending on the type of service it's providing. Response Alert ranges from $18.95 to $27.95. I think it's interesting to know that there's actually a kind of average overall 1% decrease in pricing for the service under this contract and what was in our last contract. And home care and continency supplies, we would look to contract again with professional medical fulfillment and home delivery and continence supplies. Both who we currently contract with for these services. We order from whoever gives us the best rate, so. That's what we request. If there's any questions?
Okay, can you put them in groups as to how we approve them? Or can we approve them all?
I think we can approve all.
We'll approve, all of them, but Tri-County as one vote, and then come back to Tri-County as a second one for extensions.
Okay, well, the first group, do I hear a motion? Second?
Second.
Any more questions about the first group? All in favor? Aye, motion carries. Now, second, Tri-County. Any questions on those?
So I didn't actually get to go over these rates real quick, so I kind of skipped over them. But they are ranging from $18 to $27.67 for the various services.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Second, anybody have to abstain on the Tri-County? Okay,
Rachel.
all in favor? Motion carries.
Last thing I have is a request for, an amendment to the Title 3D contract for Jewish Family and Career Services. They are not able to provide the original service of, Tai Chi for arthritis, but they have proposed an alternative service for matter of balance, which is also a great program that they will let us provide. They have requests for an increase of $4,000 for the contract in order to pay for training for that program. And they have offered in doing that to also provide that training free of charge to any other with the region provider that wanted to institute that program. So it'll be an increase in their 3D contract from $6,683 to $10,683. Anybody have any questions?
I hear a motion. Second, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the meals program update. Jessica.
Anybody hungry? I emailed you, a copy of a letter from the Department for Aging and Independent Living. There are some paper copies here as well. If you'd like to grab one or pass them around if you didn't get one. Again, they are in the email too. As you're aware, we periodically have updated you all on our meals, program, through COVID and since. If you recall, during COVID, we were instructed to serve anyone that was over 60 for a meal, and that funding would be available, and we did. Coming out of COVID, we were instructed to serve anyone who was over 60 and needed a meal and met the traditional eligibility requirements, and we do. Going into this fiscal year, obviously, we made projections on where we would be with the senior nutrition program, both in the congregate and the home delivered side. The first 2 months this year, actually, we saw quite an increase. And we meet with the Department for Aging and Independent Living every other month, with full projections on all of our services here. They are aware that the funding they have provided to us is a deficit. There's a deficit in the year for us. That became well apparent definitely in September. And on the December funding call, we were asked what our plan was moving through the rest of the year and into FY25. And, we asked, how would you like us to go about that? You haven't told us to hit the brakes yet. So we asked for something official stating, you know, how you would like us to move forward. And that's where this memo came from. If you read through this memo, and I'll read it to you, just so everyone here has it on record. The Department for Aging and Independent Living commends the work of each, AD, an area agency on aging and independent living to meet the needs of Kentucky seniors through the COVID pandemic. During this time, unprecedented funding was provided to Kentucky to ensure older adults have access to meals. That funding was through ARPA 1 and 2, for C1 and C2. In addition to the ESMP Expanded Senior Meals Program, which I believe you all are aware of, we've talked about several times, it's included in the current budget that's proposed. Therefore, the Department for Aging and Independent Living can provide assurance to each of your agencies that funding will be available to continue to feed seniors through the end of the current state fiscal year. Meaning, the department is aware of how much funding is needed for each AAA, and they intend to provide it. That's how we're reading it. That's how we're taking it. We are still moving forward. There should not be a wait list for meals. This has been, said many times over the past few months, that we won't create a wait list. We don't have a wait list for meals here. And we're thankful for that. We got approval to use our ARPA funds, and then this memo, we don't have anybody assessed and waiting for meals. We actively work here at KIPDA on over 100 active referrals in the entire region, assessing. Once that person is assessed, we assign them to a provider. The provider gets them up within a week or two. In the event your agency is concerned with funding to meet the current fiscal year demands for senior nutrition, please contact your DAIL budget liaison to set up a meeting. We meet with them. We talk to them. They are aware. The Cabinet for Health and Family Services is committed to meet the nutritional needs of Kentucky seniors. I wanted you all to know exactly where we are. So I had Tricia dive for me to show a picture of where we are. So for instance, if we went into July 1st of FY 25 without ARPA funding, which we will in C2, we will use it all this year. We will have a little bit of C1 left to spend by September 30th. If we went into fiscal year next year with just our traditional funding that we received based on what we know, we looked back at the year just prior to the pandemic and as of January 1st this year. Amazingly, this additional funding has increased our services by 73% in C2. Meaning if it wasn't there, we would have to decrease our services by 73% on July 1st. That's in C2. In C1, we have a 53% reduction. So this funding has been invaluable. We are so thankful that the state is still committed to serving, but it does put us in a certain kind of position that I wanted to make you all aware of. Jared and I have had long conversations about meals. It is promised, we do not hit the brakes, but that funding has to continue. It has to in some way, shape, or form, but we need to slow down. If we wait to hear, you all know what kind of impact that's going to make. We're going to take a lot of clients just like this. So for instance, if we knew for some reason that January 1st of next year, that's how far funding would be extended to, we need to slow down here so that we don't have a major impact. We can kind of work with attrition and walking through that. People come off the rosters, we don't replace them. Because, like I said, we have had meetings with them. We send emails and it's, formal but informal communication. We are going to write a letter on behalf of KIPDA demonstrating exactly what I just said, even though that has been demonstrated in other ways, to officially notify them that that's where we are. We believe that, the response will be keep moving, but I think it's important that we do that from here on out. Jared, do you want to say anything else?
I want to commend both our staff and our providers because we've really stepped up to this challenge. I think we're also satisfied with that assurances as well, as long as we receive that funding to get through this fiscal year. But my concern is what do we do when those ARPA dollars dry out? We only have till September 30th and those are gone. We've already had them programmed, as well as ESMP, as Ethan mentioned. And the last biennium budget had $14.6 million each year for the expanded senior meals program. The governor's budget and the House budget both reduced that to $10 million. So that's going to be a reduction. So I have expressed to the commissioner that my concern is we're going to be pulling people off the roster, people that are receiving meals, and that's going to generate phone calls to you all as elected officials, to the providers, as well as to us with concerns. So I think at this point, we're just kind of stuck in that position where we're being instructed by the cabinet to continue full steam ahead, providing these mills. We've been told that it's better to receive mills for a month than no mills at all, but it's gonna put us in a difficult position, once we do have to start removing some of those people from our roster. So we want to keep you all informed so you all are aware. We see this, in the future, but, at this point, our instruction is just to continue full steam ahead.
And if those of you are, looking for some sort of number, I can send those to you in the email as well. But as the executive director just mentioned, we did the maths on, ESMP based on the 14.1 or 14.6 and the 10 million that's in the current budget. That will reduce our ESMP allocation if they kept percentages across the board the same by, from 990 to 702, so 990,000 to 702,000. This fiscal year, FY '24, we brought in, we had $652,000 in C1 funding and 893,000 in C2 funding. Our traditional C1 and C2 funding together is about 1.8. Thank you, Trish. Other Trish was like, I wrote it down for you. 1.8, I did the math again. So you can see, the 1.8 is our traditional funding here and how we're moving forward. We currently have, as of January 1st, we have served around 1,100 C1 unduplicated clients and over 1,600 C2 home delivery meal clients. We see that increase at least by 30 to 50 each month, adding to that. So we're talking about a few hundred more by the end of June in this fiscal year, if we keep on this path. And I anticipate that we will, because we finally filled our nutrition assessor position that's been open for quite a while, and they start Monday. Megan's gonna talk about that later. Yeah. But again, we just wanted to keep everybody informed of where we are and how we're moving and why. Also, for those of you in the room that know that we were another positive point here. I know we had talked about, ARPA and made a request for ARPA to do meal boxes in our rural communities as part of our C1, C2, project, looking at potentially doing partnerships with local farmers, local businesses, local co-ops, to do food boxes with a couple of proteins, fresh fruits and vegetables. We've actually been in a conversation with Ford. They approached us, about their mobility program and reducing mobility, transportation trips we focused on rural counties and food deserts, in Jefferson. To reduce transportation trips back and forth, but with a nutrition twist. So we're currently proposing that to them as a project to work on. So we hope to have good news about that in the future.
And Judge Bates, we've engaged with the Berry Center a couple of years ago to discuss how we can use that, also partnering with them and Trackside and some of the local farmers. So that is kind of how we envision that. So we're very encouraged that this might allow us to actually move forward in that direction.
I said we would, by God. We're looking for every angle we can to potentially do that. Any questions? Free to take them now. I'm happy to take them. Happy to take them in an email. Tricia, those of you that sit on boards for some of our seed providers, she's about to factor an email to them either tomorrow or early next week. Let's talk about the fact that we have now transitioned into ARPA funding as of March 1st, right? We will be strictly ARPA, which means that there is not a match on that from the provider. So if anybody gets any questions about that, that's what that email is pertaining to. So in March, we will be fully using ARPA, which does not require a match. So it'll help them expand some of their services too. Yeah.
No questions? Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Next item, ARPA update. Tricia.
No more.
Okay, so I just want to take a few minutes to run over some of the ways that we're spending the ARPA funds that we received. This year we started off with a little over 984,000 in freebie ARPA funds. And like Jessica mentioned, a little over $1.5 million in C1 and C2 ARPA funds, 315,000 in 3E ARPA funds, 98,000 3D ARPA funds, and a little bit in Title VII for a Budson program in $2,000. So, just wanted to show you again a little bit of what we have been doing. With the 3B for the senior centers, we have worked with, the senior centers to give us requests for what they want, what can we provide for them, what would help them to continue to draw seniors, back into the centers. One of the things that we did this year was, getting ARPA funding for some alternative transportation. So this was to help, we're giving vouchers and multi-purpose to get senior centers to and from, to get people to the senior centers. And we also are using Uber Health and expanding our Get There program to get people to, non-emergency medical appointments. Largely with Uber Health, being able to take on more clients that need dialysis transportation. You can see the top middle picture is of a projector for a game down to a TV. We're getting ready to release an RFQ for that. It's interactive games that you can do on the wall or on the tables that they can do in the senior centers. We have gotten tables, chairs, treadmills, TVs, tabletop easels, dry erase boards, and pretty much if they could think to ask for it. We've asked Dale for approval for it, so especially in the multi-purpose region, a lot of new activities in those centers. Tri-County got some chairs, tables, benches. They've also provided additional services. Highlands Community Ministries has done music therapy. They actually did that, exhausted all of their funds, and we're getting ready to submit another request to run that program through the end of September. And Tri-County did yoga at 2 locations. We're successful, actually started off in Oldham, came back to Oldham, and I believe in Henry, and have some funds left, so they're going to do it in the first quarter of FY25. And Oldham again to use the remaining $3,600 that they have. So the next one is just kind of some more of the items that we've done for the senior centers. Ageless Innovations board games is kind of neat. They've reimagined games like Life and Trivia Pursuit, and I think Scrabble. So getting those out as activities to be done. Giant 4 in a row. We are also going to be issuing an RFQ. This is a big one, to get vans for transportation in the multi-purpose region. We're looking to get 2 vans or buses to transport people for senior centers. In a partnership with the U of L School of Engineering, we're doing a capstone project with them to develop a app that we can use to communicate with the adults and seniors in our area. It was starting off as an emergency notification type of thing. Yeah. And then move it into other types of notifications that would let them know what's going on in the region. That is a 3-semester, so like a 1.5-year long project that will work with the seniors. It's kind of like their graduation project. And you will own it at the end. And it will be KIPDA owned at the end. We have recently gotten approval for conference cameras, much like the OWL here in the middle of the room. Not quite that brand, but something very similar. We're hoping that they can use that so we can get better participation in our advisory council, where people can not travel here and not just do it at home on Zoom, but maybe we can get participation in the senior centers with people via that. And they could also use that for virtual health promotion, recreation, or 3D programs. We are also providing some first aid training and training for AEDs for the multipurpose region, and then all of the senior centers are going to be getting AED devices. The last one I have for 3B that you approved at the last board meeting is an approval for 93,000 to Jewish Family and Career Services, where they are expanding their services in the west end of Louisville. So, we've actually not spent a ton yet in that program, but we do have that allocated and expect to spend the majority of the $904,000 that we had coming into this year for the 3B ARPA.
We have all that earmarked though, like,
The majority of it is, now we still have.
we have to have that done, but 2025.
We
Actually-
have to have it done by September.
Actually, the way that, Dell is interpreting the guidelines is we have to have it obligated by September 30th of this year. By obligated, I know with your all's funds obligated by December 31st and spent by 2026, and by obligated, you just have it, you have a purchase request in, but Dell's interpretation is we have to have that product in hand, invoice paid. So their interpretation of the guidance from the Treasury is different than what every other interpretation is, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for Tricia to navigate.
If you have ideas and ways that, to spend it, please let us know, soon.
How much?
We still have a little over $250,000 that we don't have obligated as yet, because I do 260 something.
261.
And the two vans that you have, where will they be used?
They are going to be used for multi-purpose region, so they're going to Bullet and Spencer.
Bullet and Spencer Shelton.
We was out,
Y'all need one? Let us know.
Dan, he's got all new roads and everything.
Shelby has a van, correct?
Yes.
It's, and it's to fill in for the other two.
I know these two counties could use a van.
If we could figure out how to keep it running.
I think that staffing issue, the operational cost has been one of the hurdles to try to get over.
Yes, that's our problem.
We'll wait after, if y'all want to talk about that.
Absolutely. If you have anything else, please let Jessica or myself know. I'm happy to keep submitting requests to Dale as quickly as we get them in and turn them back around, because we'd certainly rather keep that money, here in the KIPDA region.
Because I think you all should know, they're asking now, especially until next month, that we let them know what we believe we're not going to spend. And I believe that's because they want to make sure, if they need to move it somewhere, they can. So if you all have ideas, give them to us now for sure, or over the next week or so.
I do want to save a little bit of effort though. They are not approving capital projects. So, just kind of as a note.
So remind us, because what are the use of funds?
Like the things that I've been saying, I mean, they'll prefer, they work on longevity, like things that we can do. We can try to find something to continue. They've approved lots of items that can be used, or to provide additional services, new services.
Construction is the one item that you're not approving, so they're going to approve construction.
Then construction, renovations, they want to approve those.
Like we asked for baffling for sound in one senior center and they said no to that, so. I don't know if that's an ARPA rule or something, they just didn't, they're taking funds for it.
They did approve, some additional staffing for outreach programs.
Deputy Mayor, we can speak with you a little bit more and give you a little more of a list of some of those projects, just so you have the idea.
I'm not going to touch. I certainly don't know how to use this. Not going to talk very much on Title 3C, because Jessica just very much so about that. But as she said, we will exhaust our Title 3Z2 funding this year. And we will carry some over into next year, but assuming that as long as we continue to spend that funding first, it will be exhausted by the September 30th deadline that Dale has set for us. The next is Title 3E. It's been quite a while, but Amanda came in and I believe showed y'all Walker Swappers months ago. It's one of our things that were approved. And then we have been approved to get smart caregiver pagers. So basically just like a touch of a button, if your caregiver is somewhere in the house, you can press the button on that lanyard and it'll kind of let them know that you need assistance. And we have also recently gotten approval for deep house cleaning, so we can give vouchers to get some of that not much needed cleaning done that they're too busy to be able to do. We've also been, I think it was $40,000 for that, and we've been approved $50,000 to offer services similar to our caregiver program. It would just have the restrictions of 3E, which is just age restrictions. They can get $500 vouchers for each grandchild for clothing, backpacks, shoes, some furniture, depending on what it is, those types of things. And we are working with Dale for approval for grandparents for respite for summer camps. Don't have a final approval on that, but I think it's just working out the details to get that lined out. And a respite program that has been proposed by Traeger, University of Louisville Traeger. We have requested almost $200,000 in 3D and 3E mini grants. We are still in conversation with Dale in reference to this. They want a little bit more specific information. I left this slide in here from last month. It wasn't, we hadn't had an answer yet when we were gonna do this originally, but even with the 3D, we are working on the mini grant application because even if we don't do it with ARPA, we are going to try to get that issued out with our traditional funds. Some of the programs that we would be looking at with 3D and the 3E mini grant, for the 3E mini grant will basically just be providing these programs of respite for caregivers. So things that focus on fall prevention, nutrition, physical activity, bingo size, which is something that we're providing actually at all of our senior centers this year through some funding for vaccines. Fall skate, healthy steps for older adults, Tai Chi for arthritis. For caregiver report, support reach and stress busting for caregivers. In reference to behavioral health, healthy ideals, pearls, and RAT. And for chronic disease management, education, enhanced wellness, Jerry Fit, and health coaches for hypertension control. I think the behavioral health focused a lot on suicide prevention and how to cope with stress. So that is actually the end of our ARPA presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Tricia. Next item, open enrollment. Mia?
Hi, I'm Mia Anderson. I'm the program manager for Connect's Fertility Connect program. I have a couple of ads for you guys. So the bag should have inside of them a couple of things like swag that we usually pass out at open enrollment event. This year, Connect turned 10 years old, so happy anniversary for Connect. Our open enrollment went through November 1st to January 16th. But this year was a little bit unique for us because of the fact that the public health emergency was going on. So there's an unwinding of Medicaid going on right now because during the public health emergency, there were a lot of breakdowns who were Blacks during that time to allow Kentuckians in order to receive healthcare coverage. We're always trying to reach out to the hardest to reach people. So with our connectors, they're out in the community and there's a lot of people that have healthcare coverage that's available to them through their employers. And that would be the normal avenue, but we're trying to reach people that need Medicaid, maybe business owners that need, qualified health plans. So those are the things that we're always working on, trying to reach those people who are usually the hardest to reach, and help them and assist them in getting, enrolled in healthcare coverage. One thing I wanted to point out to you guys, our connectors out in the community, of course, I just mentioned that we've been out there for 10 years. And when the ACA implementation first happened, Kentucky experienced the largest decline in uninsured rates in the United States. We fell from 14.4 in 2013 to now we have 8.7, 8.7 in 2014. To most recently, we've fallen below 5%. So these are pretty incredible things that our connectors are out in the community assisting with every day. These are our current connectors. We're currently in the works of also adding more people to our team. Now, these are the connectors that are working in all of the 16 counties for Region 3 for Kentucky Health Benefit Exchange, which doesn't completely line up with KIPDA's region, but we have connectors that are in KIPDA's region and also in Lincoln Trail, and they are working hard in the community, getting people insured every day. These numbers here, these are our 2024 open enrollment applications. As you can see, in the KIPDA region, we had over 2,000 applications that were completed in the months of November, December, and January. In Lincoln Trail, it was more than 1,000. So those connectors, again, on the road, going through applications, meeting with people, hosting events. We had 7 open enrollment events that our connectors hosted themselves this year. Those open enrollment outreach events, we had over 297 in KIPDA, and then for Lincoln Trail, over 130 that we had. Sorry, this is a little small and thing, but this is just a full breakdown of numbers for the entire state for January, numbers for renewals, and then also here for renewal terminations. Because of that unwinding of Medicaid, what we're experiencing right now is that it's almost like open enrollment is not ending. So up until April 2024, our connectors have many more clients than they would usually see because we have people that are transitioning off of Medicaid, qualified health plans, and just finding health insurance in general that may have never had insurance prior to the pandemic, and also that had insurance during the pandemic, and we want to make sure that we're giving them a warm handoff to get enrolled in something else. This is also just a map of January Medicaid terminations. So the darker counties represent more densely populated numbers. And these are the approvals. As you can see, those 16 counties that we cover are darker, which indicate again that our connectors are part of the number that is making sure that everybody's getting insured. These are January renewal numbers by age groups. So we're literally helping people from birth to death receive insurance, get documents uploaded, and navigate a system that's not always that easy to go through. Our connectors are covering large populations or either large areas. So we have connectors, some that are just primarily in Jefferson County where it's more densely populated. And then also in the counties where they're doing more driving, more traveling, and going more from place to place. These are a couple examples of our connectors out in the communities, working events and the different events that they have done out in the community. Again, we're always out, no matter rain, sleet, or snow. We're gonna take a table, we're gonna take a chair, and we're gonna set up where we need to get the people enrolled. This is one of, the open enrollment events that we hosted in, E-Town. And, this is just a picture of course, the connectors again. It was a pretty, good event with a lot, large turnout. And then there was also a write-up, about it as well. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions?
What's the qualifications to sign up?
It depends, like for Medicaid, for example, for a household of one, if you made a little under $1,600, a little over $1,600, you would qualify for Medicaid. Even if you don't qualify for Medicaid, depending on where you fall in the federal poverty level, you may be eligible for a qualified health plan. And with those qualified health plans, you can buy a qualified health plan that is full price, or you may be eligible to have advanced premium tax credits. So that's, something that our connectors help people navigate and go through.
Any other questions?
Not a question, just a quick comment. Mia's been with the program since its inception. She served as the director since Beth transitioned to her new role. And as you all can see, the program's in fantastic hands. It's difficult to manage with us going through both the KIPDA area and the Lincoln Trail area, but Mia's doing an excellent job. So I just want to commend her.
Thank you. Next item is agency surplus property.
Yes,
Cheryl?
I'm Cheryl. I just have quick 3 items here. This is item number 17. Agency surplus, it's on page 112 of your packet. This is for information only. There's no action required on this, but we wanted to let you guys know that we had some surplus items left over after we offered it to the board, to the public, and to the employees. And this list that is attached in your packet will show you what's available. It's desktop computers and some traffic counting equipment. We're offering this for free to anyone that would like to have it offered to your organizations, libraries, schools, whatever. Any of those items that are on there and aren't claimed will be recycled at the end. So if you would like to take any of those items, just give me a call and we'll work out some time to cover something. And then I also have the next one, so I'm just gonna go on with that. Agenda number 18, the procurement small purchase on page 113. This item is requesting a revision to the KIPDA procurement standards. And what's we're requesting here is approval to increase the small purchase threshold from the current $5,000 limit to increase it to $10,000. This request was submitted to our legal counsel, and after research and analysis of the applicable statutes and regulations, counsel advised that there was no reason that this threshold could not be raised. So we are requesting approval to accept the revision.
Okay, is there any questions about this change in the procurement?
How many signatures required on there? Is it just one person procures at 10,000?
When we go through it, any purchase request is signed by the division director, and the finance side has the finance, Tricia, the budget and contract coordinator, signs off, make sure it's within our budget, and I ultimately sign off. So it goes through multiple layers of review.
It's 10 enough.
So if I can.
I was gonna hand it to-
Yeah, so I think the cap at 10,000 is what's in line with federal, the federal limit. So the actual small purchase overall is 40,000. This is just like a smaller purchase level of 10,000. I mean, I would love for it to be more, but that's in line with what the federal micro purchase level is, kind of keep.
So any room you're in with the federal level, you know.
So the limit from 0 to 10,000 allows us to get free verbal pricing, you know, that kind of thing. Anything over the 10,000 then requires us to do more. We have to get written quotations and those kind of things. So we can actually make purchases up to $40,000, but there's just those two different, 10,000 and less requires one thing, and then over 10,000 and 40,000 requires something different.
The only reason I ask is Indiana is a 3-tier, it's 0 to 50, 50 to 150 and over 150. That's why I'm asking, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kentucky
Appreciate
is
that.
up to 40, and then, well, for us anyways, small purchases have to 40 in the state, and then over that, we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you on a bid, anything, let's say 30,000 and over has to be bid or?
Over 40,000.
Yeah.
We can get the 3 written quotes under 40,000.
Okay, any other questions? Motion, second? I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Right.
The next agenda item is number 19, it's our KIPDA travel policy, it's page 129 of your packet. And this is just, asking to make a revision to our KIPDA travel policy section, which is in the KIPDA employee manual. These revisions were made mainly for clarification purposes. For example, we added a requirement for itemized receipts on all meal, receipts. We just added a requirement for the traveler to provide a brief narrative of what benefit this, travel's gonna, be, and, so more that type of thing. Those were really the main 2 things in that, so not a lot of changes there, but, just making clarification so that, any of the travelers understood better what our intent was.
Some of our funding agencies require those itemized receipts, and sometimes we're receiving like credit card invoices rather than the itemized receipts. So this is again, just kind of put it in our formal policy to outline what our, the funding requirements.
Make it easier on our travel coordinator. I can go back there, so I'll take it. And I am requesting approval. I hope that we will accept that.
Any questions about the travel procedures? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the travel policy and procedures. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Next item, mid-year budget revision.
Okay, thank you.
Rita?
We have our mid-year budget revision on page 135. Item 10. And just, this is the budget, but I had a few things I wanted to highlight, adjustments that we made. One of them being, of course, salaries and fringe. They decreased a little bit just because the first 6 months we had 2 vacancies, so it decreased a little bit. And then contract services, we had 2.2 million increase due to transportation, and then social services was anticipating some awarding some contracts for KHBE. Then we have office maintenance. It was an increase of about 23,000 just for any type of emergencies that might come up. Of course, last year, I think we had a kind of a water emergency, so we wanted to kind of be ahead of it and kind of include that increase for those. We also had the van pool subsidies. We increased it by 51,000 for offsetting costs for vehicle insurance. And this is new for us in fiscal year 24. And then another thing I wanted to highlight was our outreach materials. We increased those by 30,000 for 2 new programs for social services. And we reallocated some funds for the National Caregivers Program. And that's, thank you.
Any questions of Frida about the budget? Hearing none, motion, second. Have a motion and a second, all in favor? Motion. Next item, February personnel report.
We hit a pretty good string of good luck this week, you guys, with new hires. Unfortunately, we did have 2 departures since our last board meeting. They were 2 connectors, but we've got some great people starting over the next few weeks. That really is taking our vacancy number down. We've got a connector beginning. We have 2 nutrition assessors starting, Michelle Key, labor case manager, a service advisor, and a transportation planning analyst. So we're pretty excited about this new group who's starting. we did have a promotion. Beth Morgan, who's a nutrition professor, is moving to our ADRC coordinator position effective March 18th. That's an exciting move. The only vacancies we have left are ADRC specialists. One, I've got interviews for those tomorrow. Full-time director position, in Jefferson County, interviews on those Monday. And then, we've got a couple of part-time temporary contract positions at Goodwill locations in Louisville and E-Town. And I think we have a good line on a candidate for the Louisville spot. So, all our job postings can be found on our website as usual in our careers tab. And then our staff count is 79 full-time permanent, 3 part-time permanent, and 2 part-time temporary. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, we need action on that personnel report. Do I hear a motion? So moved. Second? All in favor? Motion carried. Next item, intergovernmental review process.
I'm gonna go through this real quick. I know each month we have the intergovernmental review projects on the agenda and request for approval, but it's been a while since we explained exactly why we performed this exercise and exactly what is being approved. So I wanted to provide a quick refresher. Paul, if you want to go to the next slide. Executive order, presidential executive order 12,372 stated intergovernmental review of federal programs issued on July 14th, 1982 is intended to foster an intergovernmental partnership by relying on state processes and on state, area-wide, regional, and local coordination for review of proposed federal financial assistance. The process allows for review and comment on federally funded programs during the planning stages. This is one of the first steps in applying for funding. In Kentucky, the e-clearinghouse is administered by the Department for Local Government, and that serves as a single point of contact. State-funded programs have followed suit. So any project applying for state or federal dollars must go through the e-clearinghouse. Go on to the next slide. The area development districts serve as one of the many review agencies in the intergovernmental review process, and we seek consultation with local governments on projects applying for federal and state funding. The activity is included in our joint funding agreement contract that helps fund our community and economic development division. I think what is most important to highlight here is that what you're endorsing does not serve as a grant approval. That's ultimately determined by the funding agency, whether the project's approved. What we're saying is essentially there are no conflicts with what this project is listed as. It's not, again, we're not approving the project that's listed on here. I think that's oftentimes confusing. So at KIPDA, when we receive a project for review, we send all that information out. Whatever we see through the clearinghouse, we then disseminate out for local governments to comment and review. Often that's when we send that to the elected officials or to your planning staff. And then if you have a review that, see if it's for any duplication of services or a project that is counter to planning efforts. And then those comments are then sent back to us, and then we'll present those along with any comments here at the board when we ask for the intergovernmental review. So again, that is just kind of a quick overview. I just kind of really wanted to highlight because I do think that's confusing and we haven't done that in a while. So I think when people see like what we're getting ready to approve, that A through L, again, these are not projects that have received funding. It's just projects that are applying for funding. So any projects that's going through state or federal, when we administer through the CD department, one of those many activities of that administration is that e-clearinghouse environmental review. So that's just kind of a part of that grant submittal process. So that concludes that item and kind of transition into item number 23, which is the intergovernmental review. And we have projects A through L that are listed in here. We have sent those out for local review. We have received no comments on those projects, so these can be taken together. So my request is for the board to endorse those projects A through L.
Motion? Oh. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
I want to welcome or just recognize Whitney Meadows with Senator Rand Paul's office, who is on the line. And I don't see her on there anymore, but Representative Beverly Chester Burton had also joined us remotely. Judge Eisen, I did look, House Bill 141 is a fluoride bill. That passed the state government committee, 16-1 on February 8th. And it received a second reading, and it's on to rules on February 9th. So it has not received its third reading, but it should soon be on the House floor. I want to say that last Thursday with the Kentucky Council for Area Development, so we held our annual legislative day in Frankfurt. I want to thank Judge Summers, Judge Dyson, Mayor Essington, and Keith for being there to represent KIPDA. Next, if you look at the very last page in your handout, there is a draft letter of support. Last month, we heard from Lena Muldoon, who is the Executive Director of You Decide Kentucky. And as a reminder, their initiative is to increase potential revenue streams. And in order to achieve this goal, it would require the modernization of the tax code of the Kentucky Constitution by giving authority to the General Assembly to delegate alternative revenue raising options at the county and municipal level. You Decide currently has the support of many of the affiliate organizations in this room. That includes Greater Louisville Inc., KACO, and the Kentucky League of Cities. And they're trying to build on their multi-partisan coalition of rural and urban supporters. And LEDA has requested a letter of support from the KIPDA Board of Directors. I know there was a lot of conversation last month. So prior to me submitting that letter of support, I wanted to ask this board if they wanted me to submit that letter of support or hold off. So it's asking the board for approval to submit that letter of support for the You Decide Kentucky's efforts.
Can you say that again, in 30 words or less, what it's gonna do?
It would put on a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November, and it would open local law. It was previously called local lots and shells tax, which was a terrible acronym. So I think they've kind of rebranded from that, but it would just give an opportunity where you could put a tax on a specific project at the local level. So it's an opportunity for local governments to kind of have their own opportunity to raise taxes for a specific project.
So that it'll all still be local.
Yes, sir.
It's not Frankfurt telling somebody.
What the tax would be imposed would be generated back to your city or county.
And it is either or.
Yes, sir.
Does it sundown after the project's completed?
It does. Yes, sir. And the legislation still has not been filed this session. As Ethan indicated, Monday is the last day for House bills, Wednesday last day for Senate bills. So I can't say what the bill is at this point because it hasn't been filed. So, but we do anticipate that being filed next week.
I mean, are you asking us?
Yes, ma'am.
I would vote to support this.
Any other comments? So we got a motion on the table to send a letter that we back this going forward in Frankfurt.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion? Second? We can't
Let
get a
me
second.
understand it. Can I get more money? Is that what this basically says?
And you
I
would
can get more money for my city because I need it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, those things you vote for, I mean, you would support, like, it would have to be something that you would support locally.
Carol, if you do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be working that industry to come to Shelby County where I won't have a tax on their building. So you could lose a business, but they
Why
may
do you lose
stay.
any businesses? I'm just trying to understand this.
Yeah, that's my understanding, Mr. Chairman.
It's, the way I understand it, right now, there's no way
coming in.
there's no way for a city to impose a sales tax or a special tax.
Right.
This addresses the Constitution so that would be possible if the city or county, I guess, so chose to enact this.
It would
It's
be
got
up,
local control.
exactly. It would be up to the local government to elect in order to pursue that tax.
But that local unit of government would also have to vote and adopt
Correct.
that sales tax.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just some history. Coming from Illinois, there is no community in no county who has the same sales tax. When I came to Indiana, it's a flat 7%. I don't know what the sales tax is in Kentucky. In Illinois, it allowed a municipality to raise a tax, 4% increment or 8% increments, no more than 4% per year, and it was project specific. So if you wanted to put in a business improvement district to improve the sidewalks, streetscape and everything in a certain amount of block area, you could do that. Once the bonds or whatever were paid off, that sunsetted and went back. I'm assuming this would be very much same type of thing that you would be able to do.
You said that much better than I did. That's correct.
No.
This is this would have to go, this is a ballot amendment to change the constitution.
Yes.
So no matter what, we can send, or whoever can send a letter all day long, it has to get voted on.
By the individuals of the state of Kentucky.
Yes, it's a ballot amendment.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So do we have a second now? Still no second.
What, it's just a letter of support, right?
Yes.
Right.
As a resident of Indiana, I don't feel it's appropriate for me to make that second, but if there's interest in sending the letter, I don't see that there's harm.
I think we should send the letter for, but I don't think I can second a motion, can I?
No, sir.
No, so,
I'll second it to send the letter. Cause we're not saying we're in favor. We're asking them to consider putting it on the ballot, right?
that is correct.
So that individual communities and counties have the right then to come back again and say whether they want it or not.
That is correct.
Then I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
I'm opposed.
Uh-oh. We'll have,
Yeah,
Love to
sorry,
know,
I need
what is
those.
the opposition?
I need those names.
I can explain it to you quite
Yeah,
handsomely, because
please do.
every time if we do something locally, they lower the state income tax, they cut our money back. Our county just lost millions of dollars in a bourbon tax for an industry that's making so much money, billions of dollars. And this is what's gonna keep happening. I've seen this up there over an extended period of time, and I understand Louisville can vote anything in that they want to, but in my community, it doesn't quite work that way. It'll all fall back on us. Your state representative's gonna sit up there for eternity and not have to make a decision to where they have to literally be accountable for it. And that's funding the other 118 counties. Right, absolutely.
So the concern is that it ultimately results in lower state support,
Absolutely.
and particularly the counties that can't raise the revenue for whatever they might be putting on the ballot.
Right.
The folks in the state can run a commercial saying, vote for me, I never raised the tax. The roads still have to get fixed, the EMS still has to run, police still have to serve. So it comes back, and they say, well, we gave you the local, so the judge executive goes out and says, we gotta raise the tax, and then somebody says, hey, I'm gonna
In
fix
theory,
the
it
bill.
sounds good.
Yes.
It really does.
But the reality is, if you raise a tax, you're gonna get beat. I mean,
And it's not
that's
the
very
idea,
generalized, but that's.
but it's not the idea of perpetuity for a local politician to be there forever. But it is the idea that you have state representatives and state offices that literally will not stand accountable for what they need to do to make this state flourish and go forward.
Okay. I mean, that is helpful for me to understand in the way of perspective of restricted, like, again, restricted state funding, particularly to a county that maybe wouldn't raise enough revenue to offset. Okay, I mean, that's not the
Is
intention of
that fair
why.
enough, Dan?
That's my,
I'm talking Dan Ison, we've walked the halls together for 20-something years up there. We have seen this. I mean, the lower that state income tax gets, the less funding 118 counties are gonna get. I'm excluding Jefferson and Fayette.
You can look at the last tax decrease by the state, my taxes went up. I didn't get a tax decrease. It sounded good,
Mhm.
but anybody above the poverty levels, taxes went up. I'm now paying 6% to get my grass cut.
Right.
So there was no,
But
Is that
I think,
happening?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
No,
just
for sure.
pretty,
this,
I'm vocal about it. I've been real familiar with the previous administration for 12 years. Great working relationship. Haven't seen much of the new administration, but with Bullitt County, we have 85,000 people. We're revenue sharing county, no different than Jefferson. So this is what I've seen and I'm passionate about it because I believe these public officials need to be accountable all the way up to the top.
Yeah, that is helpful. Thank you.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I didn't see the hand raised, but I think the nays had more than the yays.
If we could do that again, I'm just a messenger here, so I just presented that.
I'm not taking issue with you.
let's do that vote one more time so we can count. All in favor? One. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 opposed. Sorry, Clark. Okay,
Thank you. I just, to get through my executive director.
Nobody's gonna shoot the messenger. Let me tell you.
Jerry, you got a travel report?
I have 2 travel requests. The first is for the Purdue Road School. It's an annual conference of transportation professionals from around Indiana. KIPDA staff and staff from the other local planning, organizations from around the KIPDA region have attended this conference for many years. There are many tracks of training that the conference offers, but the training that KIPDA MPO staff will attend focuses on the project development process specifically. And the LPA coordination process that involves local government in southern Indiana, KIPDA and DOT. This is for 2 staff members, Brady Hill and Chris Nicholas. It's in West Lafayette, Indiana, from March 11th to the 13th. And the second travel item is the annual Grandparents Parents Conference. This will be attended by our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Program Coordinator, and the conference will just keep her up to date on important challenges. And it's also been beneficial in expanding our reach in more rural areas. That conference is in Lexington, March 20th to 21st. Attended again by Mary Ann Hall, our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Coordinator. So consideration is requested for those 2 travel items.
So moved.
Second. Everybody in favor? Anybody against? Motion carried.
And then finally, just the meetings next month, we have the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee on March 13th at noon here in the KIPDA Burke Room and on Zoom. And then next month, March 28th, the Transportation Policy Committee will meet at 12:30 and the KIPDA Board of Directors will meet at 2 o'clock. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. Anything else to come before the board? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. In a second, all in favor?